This episode of Fresh and Buds is brought to you by Scarves. That's right, folks. Scarf for a scarf. We are doing a giveaway over on Blue Sky for some of these awesome promos from LSS, and it's in conjunction with hitting 1K on the YouTube, which we're very close. Even maybe by the time you're listening to this or watching this, we may have already hit 1K. So I will put a link for the giveaway in the show notes below. Check it out. The details are there, and Fresh and Buds now.
Fresh and
All right, folks, welcome back to yet another episode of Fresh and Buds. I'm Tommy Fresh. You are all my buds. It is episode 173. Last week I was alone, but this time I decided to grab a bud, and it is Brice from the 03 Dropcast. Welcome, my friend. How you doing?
Hello.
What's going on?
Doing great. We were just talking before we started that I am finally all recovered from some of my own technical issues last week. Good to be back and operational again. So just low stress now, just vibing.
You know, I've run into my fair share of technical difficulties. I remember, golly, my first year doing the podcast, I remember I had a guest who's not a part of Flesh and Blood anymore, but halfway through, something happened, lost all of it. You're just like, oh man, that's the worst.
You can't even help that sometimes. You know, we were talking about backup drives and stuff, but like when your power goes out, I got like 5 minutes on a UPS. It's not enough to like finish a recording session. But
yeah.
You just got to roll with it sometimes.
Yep. You know, that is the plight of the content creator. I'm not sure if that's the right way to say it, but hey, listen, we got a great episode for you all today. We're joined by Brice. We're going to get to know Brice. He's the third member of 03 Dropcast we've had on the show now. The final piece, the missing link.
Unless we bump it up to 04, which I don't think we have any plans on doing anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, if you're still in the tournament 04, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I've been there. But we're going to have a good time. We're getting to know Brice. And then, you know, we're going to get controversial, right? We're going to take a a relatively shallow dive into the part of the Mistveil kind of controversy that we're experiencing right now in the Flesh and Blood community, which could all be shored up by next week when I think there's another band announcement, but who knows? We're going to talk about it, and we're going to, you know what, maybe influence some LSS employees to do something. I don't know.
They better be listening, you know.
And we know that you are, all of you. James, how's it going? Anyway, I need to know more about you, Brice. Tell us trading card games, gaming. Where did it all start for you? And we'll get to how you got to Flesh and Blood in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, games in general. I mean, it's kind of cliche, but I remember being a kid and playing all kinds of all the old Milton Bradley games and Parker Brothers. Is that the right? Yeah, all the like. No one really likes Monopoly anymore, but like, 13 Dead End Drive, if you remember that, Clue, all those just like easy kids games. I mean, we've been playing that. My brother and I played a lot of those games when we were kids. My crazy Italian grandmother taught us how to play poker when we were like probably way too young to be playing poker. I definitely got in trouble in kindergarten for like trying to teach other kids how to play Hold'em and stuff. But I've always been playing games, card games specifically. Didn't really get into until a little later. I want to say I was thinking about this before because like I don't know, I was like in middle school, man. It's been a while. I want to say I like started playing Magic the Gathering very casually in like 1998, 1999. If I was able to dig up my collection, I'd have a lot of like Urza's block. I believe it was Weatherlight block, Tempest or Weatherlight. I can't remember. All that kind of Tempest, Urza's, all that stuff. because of course I wanted to be like my cool older brother and do everything he did. We even had that kind of like I remember having to convince my mom that Magic the Gathering wasn't like a weird occult thing. And like we weren't like no, like they're not like tarot cards. We're not like playing Ouija with these things. It's a game. It's just a board game, basically, just with cards. But that was never I was a little too young to be like allowed to go out to like Friday night magics on my own and stuff like that. So it was a lot of like schoolyard magic, playing at recess, playing at lunch and stuff like that. Never got like too serious into it.
Yeah, well, kind of interesting enough that Tempest and I think that like those sets I hadn't been playing yet, but from what I know about them, they are kind of the I guess the not the birth, but maybe the birth of like the storytelling within that game, and
Yeah, yeah.
and it's kind of interesting that you're into Flesh and Blood because it's a very flavorful storytelling forward game, or at least sometimes it is, and that's pretty neat. And I also remember growing up, I went to Catholic school in elementary school. Not to brag, just kidding. But I remember Yu-Gi-Oh was the devil and all those
Yes.
things. A lot of that
Yeah.
talk being talked about by parents and stuff like that, which is kind of funny. I don't think we get a lot of that anymore. But
No, no. I think once everybody realized D&D wasn't actually Satan,
yeah.
that stuff kind of stuff, because that all goes back to like D&D satanic panic of like the 80s and stuff like that, and I think a lot of people just never really let that go. I think it was a different time in like advertising and stuff too. You know what I mean? I think there wasn't a lot of parents didn't see it on TV. They were just like, "Oh, the cards are magic. They're probably some weird occult thing," and it's something new for the time. I guess that's gonna happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so that's 25-ish years ago at this point,
Yeah, yeah.
1998. How long after that were you playing Magic? Is something that you just kind of like kept on the back
Yeah.
burner? Because
Yeah,
there's
it
been a lot
was
of Magic since then.
there's been a whole, and that's part of why when I tried to get back into it, it was just so daunting because I didn't really play too much after I got into high school. I would still play every now and then because a lot of my friends still played. I was always able to borrow a deck, always able to just like someone at their house on Friday night would just be playing kitchen table, and we do that, but I never really kept up with it. It wasn't until probably about like say like 2013, 2014. I hit that thing that every I'm not old. I say I use the term old like it actually means anything. um you hit that time where like all your college friends are like moving to other towns or they're getting married and having kids, and you start seeing less and less of like some of your buds and stuff. And I was like, I need something to like go make more friends because all mine like moved to Florida or something. I remember going picking up like a 24 M14 fat pack, borrowing a deck, trying some stuff. And I think my first time actually out trying to play Magic again after all those years was like a pre-release draft or something like that. And it was miserable. It
Mm,
was just the worst experience, not because of the game, just because of like I don't know. I don't want to say Magic communities are bad, but I can certainly tell you like my local one was.
mm.
I was like the disrespect I was receiving from like some like 14-year-old kid in a Disturbed t-shirt. I was like, I don't need this. This isn't just stop. So that I kind of gave up on that, sold a couple of the cards that I got. And then a couple years later, Keyforge came out. If you ever played that, ever, familiar with that. I sold I want to say I sold like 3 or 4 Magic cards, like 3 or 4 of my old cards, and just bought a couple boxes of Keyforge with it. Um, and I started getting real into that. That one was the success. That one had some really great people. Remember posting on Reddit, just like, "Hey, is anyone like around Pittsburgh playing Keyforge anywhere?" Um, and ended up finding a shop. Went there, played a ton, played every week. It was great. Everyone in that community was fantastic. And then Fantasy Flight just killed the game.
Yeah.
It just kind of, yeah, it just kind of, it's a really crazy story. They like have you like did you oops are you like familiar with Keyforge and how all that stuff kind of worked with like the
I was aware of Keyforge. I never
Okay.
played it. You know, obviously I've met a lot of people in this game that
Yeah.
played Keyforge.
So there was no deck building in it. It was all randomized. You would buy every deck was a precon,
Mm.
and it was all kind of randomized. According to Fantasy Flight, they literally lost the algorithm that was generating the decks, was what they said. They said they had some kind of, who knows? I never really followed up too much on it. They did another company did a Kickstarter to try to bring the game back. Not going so great. I did meet one of our locals, one of our Flesh and Blood locals, Pete, through playing Keyforge though, and that's how the game was kind of introduced to me. Was we had a couple, it was Pete and somebody, I can't remember who the other person was, but like one or two people who got kind of in very early on Flesh and Blood, kind of introduced that to a couple of us when Fantasy Flight kind of when they let Keyforge die, they stepped in and said, "Oh, can we tell you about our Lord and Savior Flesh and Blood? Maybe try this new TCG." And I got in right around the end of Monarch. My first Flesh and Blood pre-release was a Tales of Aria. Um, and I got in. Unfortunately, it kind of wasn't looking good because that was right around the time that we were seeing like $600 Monarch 1 boxes with the
Yeah.
whole Channel Fireball thing and all that, and there was a lot of buzz around like this is a speculators thing. This is strictly a like collector, buy some boxes, flip it for money thing. A lot of people thought like the game wasn't going to survive at that time. Very shortly after that, those like people figured out what happened and those prices settled down and we were kind of back on smooth sailing with the game. I somewhat early on, I think I won my first armory at a Monarch draft with Prism, and I was like hooked from that. My actual first draft was a WTR draft. Didn't know what I was doing. Hate drafted to Glint the Quicksilver because it was shiny.
Sure.
Wasn't even playing Warrior, but I was like, this is probably worth something, right? But yeah, it was. I got hooked in there pretty fast, just after experiencing the game. So that was kind of my final like, okay, here we are now.
Yeah, and I mean I remember well those times when there was it was like a lot of points in that first big year of Flesh and Blood, which I would say
Yeah.
is from like chain meta Road to Nats right before Tales. That's when I got in. Sounds about you were in around the same time.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then through Tales, Everfest, we saw Starvo, and we saw like the first Pro Tour. A lot of great things happened that year, but also like some things that just made you say like, what is going on?
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
because we all knew the game was so good, right? And when there's like these external factors, it's very stressful as a fan of the game. And for me as a creator, I was like, I gotta try to spin this in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah. We talk about it sometimes where like we don't want to be too critical. But if you're gonna criticize something, it's like be analytical about it. Don't
Mhm.
just, we try to not complain about things, but you'd be doing a disservice if you didn't point out that sometimes things don't go as planned. Sometimes things can get a little shaky, but we've survived. We survived Starvo. We survived the Phi pile. We survived Chain. Like there's still the faith there. Obviously, where we are now.
Yeah, we'll see it, but it's the nature of card games. Like things get powerful, and gamers are gonna play the most powerful thing, right? And
Yeah.
if it's just, even if it's just and we're gonna talk about this in a bit, but like if it's just like a fraction of a point more powerful, sometimes it will feel like it's a billion times more powerful,
Right.
and
Right.
and they'll just be played into oblivion. Now, before we get to all that, though, I mean, so you got invested in Fab. You're playing it, obviously, just as long as I have now. Content creation. We've gotten the story from both Smithville and Craig. What's your story getting into the O3 Dropcast?
um Honestly, I don't remember. I watched both of their episodes, but I don't really remember what they had talked about. So I'm gonna go back and see how our stories differ. Because that'd be interesting, 3 different perspectives. Honestly, to me, it was a joke. that was said one too many times, and then it just became real. We were like, you know what? Yeah, because we had Matt sit on stream. Um, I don't want to speak for him, but there's been a lot of talk about he's like cutting back on some of the content creation stuff. And we were like, yeah, man, we always gave him shit about like, oh, he hasn't made a video in like 3 months. Somebody has to do something. So we just like joked around about it so much that it eventually just became a real thing. Craig joining our armory was definitely the like nail on a coffin is such a like negative term. I don't want to say that. That was the final straw where we were like, yeah, Craig is hilarious. This guy is very loud and opinionated and funny. And hey, look at that. He's also good at like video production stuff. It's like what he does. So I mean, we were just sitting at Armory one night and we finally were just like, okay, like for real, like, yeah, you guys want to do this? They're like, yeah, okay. And then we had a little meeting, went and bought a fancy microphone and some recording software. And I think we just hit like 500 not that long ago.
Hell yeah.
So I'm like super proud of everybody and really happy to see where we are, that we actually like, oh wow, hit like 500 subscribers in like less than a year. That seems like I never really imagined being like, oh, I'm going to do content creation stuff. But it's fun. It's fun just to do it, and I like love hanging out with those guys, and we have a good time. Chris is like DMing our D&D campaign, so I see Chris constantly between this and Armory and D&D and stuff, and everybody's become real good friends, and it's chill, and it's been fun.
Well, I love the vibe. I mean, obviously I've known Chris for a long time.
Yeah. Chris has a background with that's the other thing. Chris has a background with the content creation, so he had a lot of good input and stuff,
and just really had a great pulse on the community as a whole.
Yeah.
And being involved with the commoner scene and beyond that, he's been great. And I think the vibe's great. I was on the show.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It was fun. I wiped the floor with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like I think the second time you beat me, because I think we played a game somewhere at some event. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, that game did not go my way.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I was playing like Control Riptide against Kasai, which I think is probably the worst matchup. But
yeah.
I actually went back and watched some of it the other day as I was preparing for this pod, and I was like, I just remember you were just like, God, another inertia token.
Another inertia, Jesus. Yeah.
But it's just a good vibe, and definitely a lot in common with what I like to see in content and what I like to put out in content. It's like, well, we don't need to be. Not everybody needs to be super sweaty, right? It's just not something that is needed, and I think for the long-term growth of the game and the health of the game, I would say, you hinted at maybe some more toxic communities in other games, which I think is a actually legitimate problem.
Oh yeah.
But for a long time, there was no content for that community because the internet wasn't a thing, and things get kind of ingrained in these people's brains. And we are so fortunate in Flesh and Blood to have like a game that, while it's a classic TCG, exists in the world of content, and where a bunch of people do realize that things don't have to be so toxic, which is awesome. And I applaud the O3 Dropcast for being a part of that mission.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. Now, what are your goals though for Flesh and Blood and even content as well?
Yeah. This just came up in Discord today. People were joking about like, I forget what the meme was. It was like things that don't exist, and it was like Santa Claus. Oh, I'm sorry, no, sorry, kids.
Whoa, what did it out?
It was like things that don't exist. This thing, and then PVE and Fab. And I would absolutely love to try to be part of some of that PVE growth. I'm not a game designer. I couldn't write us. I mean, I don't know. I'm working on some story stuff for a D&D campaign, but as far as actually like road mapping, like a PVE kind of homebrew option or something like that, that's not my territory. I'd love to start talking to. We've talked about. I'd love to start talking to some people who are kind of in that like PVE development. I know I can't recall any names right now because frankly, it's kind of few and far between. Um, uh, Maybe some adjacency to the UPF community, which I'm not the biggest. I'm not the biggest fan of multiplayer formats. It has nothing to do with Flesh and Blood multiplayer, just in general. But I'd like to start getting some people together and trying to spotlight some of those efforts into like potentially developing more homebrew PVE or even seeing what LSS has to say about let's maybe hear some plans one of these days if they have any.
I think I think you're spot on that PvE and Flesh and Blood might not come. But
Yeah.
that being said, I think we do start to have a lot of great options. I know that longtime listener and Bud, Darth Prentice, Greg, he has been playing some PvE with like I guess a program, like an external program, and I've been having a blast with it. Actually, the first time I met Greg, he had like a little homebrew PvE thing where you would roll dice against Rhinar, I believe, which was pretty fun. And I played the hell out of it. It was like, when we were all itching for more Flesh and Blood. And,
Yeah.
I hope that we get more of it, but it is homebrew is probably the way to go for Fab PvE. Why wait, right? It's just have fun. It's supposed to be for the kitchen table anyway, so
Right.
It's I hope that you're well on your way. Listen, just keep your ears and eyes open for some people that want to do it. But
yeah, we talked to Greg sometimes. He was he helped us get some of the stuff rolling with like audio recommendations and stuff like that. I have to reach out to him, see if he still has a copy of that.
Oh yeah, you should definitely. He's probably listening right now. He will message you well before you even remember to. Right, Greg?
Somehow got a live feed. He's like tapped in.
But listen, it's time, Brice, for your fresh faves. We need to know what your favorite cards are in Flesh and Blood, and we're gonna start with a humdinger right now. Who's your favorite hero?
Oh, Kasai for sure. Yeah, any one of my locals could have answered that for you. I'm definitely warriors in general have always kind of been my favorite, but Kasai was always just so much fun, like thematically, like already enjoying warriors. Seeing a warrior that like I like any class that has sort of a thematic twist to them. That's why I enjoy Rangers because they have their like unique way the arrows work, stuff like that. Kasai was just super cool where it's like they actually managed to make her a sellsword. They actually managed to make her a mercenary, right? Like you have the mechanic of let's get a bunch of copper and then let's use that money to just absolutely pop off and like go ham on somebody. Didn't see a lot like that at the time. I was very happy to get her as a CC hero in heavy. Kind of sad to see Cash Out gone because that was just such a big piece of that. But definitely Kasai. I don't think you can see it in frame, but I have like all the Marvels, the cold foil hero.
I could see one.
Yeah, the cold,
the young one. I think I could make the most out of for the YouTube
dramatic
viewers.
Yeah, but the young and adult Marvel, the cold foil from Crew, and both of the cold foil sabers,
nice.
up in a little display thing there. So definitely a big Kasai stan. Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it. I don't know what your further answers are, but I will always try to make Raise an Army work just in my spare time.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the coolest thing. I want to do the thematic, get the gold, buy the mercenaries, but she is sweet.
Ketchup and mustard as you go.
Yeah. Oh, what's your favorite weapon?
I mean, probably Centauri sabers. Yeah, there's I had my trolley favorite would probably be Winter's Whale. Before that got canned. Just seeing people sweat trying to like, oh no, it's 4. How do I block this? I talked a lot of I talked a lot of crap on ice when it was a thing, but now I'm like, you know what, it wasn't that bad. With Jarl out and stuff, I don't think the ice was that oppressive. So I like trolling with Winter's Whale a little bit too.
Yeah, I think ice wasn't maybe the problem. It might have been some external factors, but
Yeah.
I mean, Winter's Whale was pretty insane. But that is, it still exists in Living Legend. I'm going to echo everything LSS says. Living Legend is a format, folks.
It is.
Now,
We got a LL skirmish coming up.
Yes. Oh, skirmish is this weekend. Holy smokes. I don't know if I'm ready. Equipment. What is your favorite equipment?
So speaking of LL, I'm planning on playing Lexi in LL, and I always absolutely love New Horizon. This was kind of tricky because I think I could have just went down the list and just did nothing but warrior stuff. I've been a fan of like dynamos, obviously. Like dynamos are just some of the best boots in the game. The absolute value you get out of them just for free. But that's too easy of an answer for me. I do also really love New Horizon just for the way that it is like it manipulates the game at a functional level. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, 2 arsenal zones. Okay, that's different. Nothing else in the game really does stuff like that for you. Just letting you kind of just change the way the game functions. Also, it's really good art.
Yeah.
Really good art. The cold foil looks gorgeous. But yeah, probably New Horizon.
I'm glad to hear that. That's a card I'll never play. As a Riptide player, I know that like in some Riptide
you
decks,
got better options for Riptide.
Yeah. Some Riptide players swear by it, but I'm like, you know what? I just want to block, and I don't want to block with the New Horizons. That's like the thing. It's like, I want the 2 slots if I'm going to have them, But
that was always like when I first started playing. That was always the like, oh, it feels so bad to like block with your Tunic or like block with your New Horizon or something, because like now you just I mean, you're usually doing that desperation at the end of the game anyway, but like that was always just a real bummer losing that other arsenal slot.
Every once in a while, like I just took basically 2 weeks off from playing Flesh and Blood because I had some stuff going on, wedding, yada yada yada.
Some stuff.
Some stuff. I got a new job, which is cool too. Which I guess it hasn't started yet, but it will start. But I played some today, just on Talishar, and I was playing Riptide, and I blocked with Trench. Right, I needed to cover Breakpoint. And then you just like, oh, I forgot that the whole deck changes. Like I can't play it the same way. I don't have the out of just trenching something away. And it's
they love doing that to Rangers, don't they?
Oh God, they really do. What's your favorite run of the mill card that you throw into your deck?
I had to one that was specifically focused towards Kasai and some funny things that I do. I love playing High Striker in Kasai. It was always something that just absolutely threw people off. Like when I was playing Kasai and Blitz basically every week, everyone hated to see High Striker. It's such I would just do it like even as a 1-of sometimes, because it's such a like you're gonna gain tempo either way with it, because they're gonna either just totally block out and be like, I can't let you get 6 copper. That's insane. So they're either gonna take a turn off because they had to totally block out, or you're gonna sneak a hit in, and now you're ready for a blood on our hands. It was such a cheesy little card. Probably not in like a new Kasai build, just because it just gets in the way of other stuff going towards your game plan. But that was always a funny little thing. My actual answer is probably Nourishing Emptiness. For the same reason, just the audacity to like throw that into a warrior deck and just be like, oh, I got a 6, well, you got a 6 card hand coming towards you next time. That was always very satisfying to get that Nourishing Emptiness hit.
Nourishing Emptiness is a funny one because I think like every deck wants to play that card, but they can't.
Yeah.
I remember just playing it in Levia because I was like, I'll get to a point when I have no 6s left in my my banish, and I'll be able to do that, and then take a ton of blood.
It's a 3-block, right? It's still
it's still 3-block. I mean, it's still like a
3-block 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like whatever.
Yeah. It even like when I was playing Dory in CC, it it feels like funny. It feels funny to include it sometimes because like in CC you're also probably playing Command and Conquer. So they're not actually your only. In Blitz,
Mhm.
absolutely. You're guaranteed to have those be like the only attacks in your deck. In CC, no, you're probably yeah. In CC, you're probably throwing in Command and Conquers also. So it's a 50-50. It's still, still a good chance. Still a good chance to get it off.
Yeah, it's a sweet card. Now, what class and talent would you be in the world of Wraith if you existed there?
Honestly, not gonna say warrior with this one. I usually when I play RPGs or anything like that, I usually play a caster. Playing a warlock in my D&D campaign right now. In when I for the like 7 years I played World of Warcraft, I was a shadow priest. I like casters. I would probably actually want to be an illusionist.
Oh,
I don't know about because that fits my archetype of doing cool caster shit and being able to like pew pew everything. And wizard is too cliche. So like the other caster being the illusionist. I don't know about talent though. I think a shadow illusionist would be very cool because that kind of lines up with how much I loved playing Shadow Priest in WoW. I don't know that we're ever going to see anything like that, but I mean, yeah, if you're giving me free reign, Shadow Illusionist probably.
oh yeah, you're getting free reign. Don't worry about it. That
Yeah.
is like, that's an. I mean, we will get Shadow Illusionist at some point, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're probably gonna have like Mon 3, aren't we?
yeah,
That's basically already been said. So yeah, maybe it's close.
2026.
Maybe
I
it's
think
closer than we think. Yeah.
maybe. I mean, listen, I'd be all for it. Maybe once we get Necromancer in the game, I feel like everything starts to feel
Floodgates
like
are open.
it
Yep.
can be resurrected, and it is now Shadow, whatever it was before. And listen, that would
Oh
be
yeah.
sweet.
Okay.
Thema-
Thematically, it works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a nice little plot device that they could use whenever they want. It's kind of like the Dragon Balls in Dragon Ball Z. Somebody died, go get the Dragon Balls. Um, actually, almost exactly like that.
The Shadow MacGuffin is basically what we got for Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, yeah. Now we got to talk about power level,
Mhm.
and just like I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on it, but I think it's worth mentioning. So while I was away, getting my the old knot tied, or tied the
Congrats,
knot.
by the way.
Thank you, thank you. It was a good time. I did see that Portland top 8, which it definitely caused some controversy. Right? It's about MST's power level. First of all, friend of the show, Michael Fang, took it down with Enigma, I believe.
Yep.
Michael took it down, right? Yes.
It was CYB Enigma, right?
Yeah. No. I don't think it was legal anymore. Unless he's. Oh yeah, I guess you could still play CYB, but there's no reason to anymore. Now I'm looking at the list right now. No, it's just a good deck. Which listen, we can talk.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was okay. It wasn't CYB.
Yeah,
Okay.
the blue is no longer
right.
legal, right?
Yeah.
So besides that, so we had 3 Enigmas, 2 Zens. Zen is still good, right? Zen has lost the most cards probably. Since
Still going strong.
still going strong. And there was 1 new, and then the outliers here in terms of MST were there was an Azalea, which has been a player for a long time, and then there was also a Dash IO, which is got some new toys from the Armory deck. Although no more High Octane on this tournament, I don't believe. Yeah, no way. It is.
Yeah. Okay.
It was
yeah.
gone.
That was after BNR. Yeah.
But the conversation though is MST, right? Because since it was released, and you probably remember this, it kind of has felt like Tales of Aria Part 2. Not in terms of thematics, but in terms of like every one of these heroes is certainly a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
how do you feel about MST as a set, right? And its place in the game as it is right now?
I was very okay. I was more excited for Part the Mistveil when I thought that the illusionist was going to be Amira.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
the blue illusionist from oh, I forget. She's on a lot of cards.
Yeah, a lot of cards.
Um, I was super hyped because I've always just been like, oh, I want that as a playable. Maybe we'll get it. Maybe we'll get it in an armory deck now that we know what those are supposed to be. Um, I was real hyped for it, and then it came out, and I was still pretty hyped for it. I think a lot of those cards are absolutely gorgeous. So much of the art is very cool. Um, Very neat thematic place to take it, especially aligning with the like release of the like Japanese language packs and all that stuff. Made a lot of sense thematically and for like the timeline of the game. But then they just started winning.
Yeah.
And it was just everything is being taken down by Zen. Zen was just so oppressive on like every front. And I will preface anytime I talk about this stuff, I will preface it with like, I'm not a game designer. I'm not the best at the game. I'm not a fantastic deck builder. I basically just always take other people's decks and tweak them around a little bit. So like all of the kind of overpoweredness and all of the just like absolute dominance in the meta was like other people's doing. But it was a little disheartening, like going to Armory knowing that you're just gonna get like stomped by Zen, going to tournaments knowing that you're just gonna get like stomped by Zen or something like that. It made it a little bit of a bummer to play sometimes. Um, the proof is in the pudding as
Yeah.
far as you know what I mean. Like, you look at the results, you look at the general kind of consensus around like local armories. It was just too oppressive. I thought it was a pretty fun draft environment. I think some people didn't really like it that much. I it was probably the first set that I would rather just keep drafting than playing constructed in.
Hmm.
Um, I'm bad at draft. I like doing it, but I'm really bad at it. And I still was saying like I'd rather just draft this set because constructed is just a nightmare right now.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly love the draft format as well. I thought it was a real home run. I will say I don't know if this is a hot take, but love Rosetta draft a lot more than MST, but MST was a really high standard. But
Especially after coming off the back of Heavy,
heavy
which was
hitters, which
probably one of the best draft sets so far.
oh yeah, I mean, heavy was a blast. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
had some brute stuff, had some really awesome warrior stuff. I mean, I love Olympia. Anytime I get to play up the ante, I am happy as a bird. Now, MST is interesting because like I look at Zen clearly, I felt like I when Zen was spoiled, I was like, this deck's going to be really good because, well, that's just how Ninja goes, and it also has the Crouching Tiger card pool that already existed from Dynasty, I believe it was, and
Yeah.
and then there we had it. It was just a great deck. It needed to be hamstringed, and then it kind of went back a little bit, and then that was after they banned, all the draw twos, all the tomes. And the interesting thing is, I think new is probably the most balanced, I guess I would say, because I think there's a lot of really good ways to play around new. The other assassins, I think, play into new a lot better than new does. It kind of loses that battle, and then there's decks even like as like a Riptide player. I think if Riptide has a good game into you, I think you're totally fair. and maybe
Yeah.
that is kind of like a bias, but I think like that's fine. Like Riptide is kind of like a counter deck, and if there is like a straight counter deck to you, I think it's totally fine. So I look at Enigma and Zen, and the thing that I keep coming back to because I'm like, why are these decks so good? And I feel like Transcend is maybe an issue now. James White has been pretty adamant about Transcend being one of the biggest design wins of the game, but I'm not sure if I agree. Where do you fall on Transcend?
Well, okay, so first of all, I think everybody remembers that we notoriously got the Zen new tier list item completely wrong. We got so much shit for that when we did our like pre MST tier list, where we were like, oh no, Zen's not going to be good and New's going to be just an absolute menace. And again, just goes to show that like I just need other people to tell me how to play the game. But um, I really loved Transcend from like here's a unique mechanic being added to the game. The marvels are super cool. I know a lot of people didn't like stuff like flipping the dragons, and I wish they had. I wish there was a some leniency on like having ways to flip your cards a little bit easier, or like being able to like have other sleeves with like the pre-flipped cards or something like that. Because that was a bit weird sometimes when you would like forget to DChi after a game.
Mhm.
Mechanically, and what it provided is like a new kind of outlet to the game and a new way to play, and like, oh, there's a secondary resource type now. I thought that was kind of cool. Um, I think, and they were legendary, so you can't have more than one. There's a limited card pool of them. I didn't think they would be that big of an issue. I mean, the abilities that they enable are obviously very powerful, but that was kind of the point. I don't know if there would have been something around limiting the number of transcend cards you could have as a whole. Like I said, they're already legendary, so you can own one copy. But like, um, it's I always looked at Mistveil as like blue was the problem, not
Mhm.
necessarily the transcending. Like, yes, they let you do these things, but also functionally, they're just more blues. Um, I don't, other than Guardians, it doesn't seem like you could usually be able to get away with running that many blues and still having such a powerful deck, right? Because that's the trade-off is supposed to be blue are your weakest cards. You should only really be running as many blues as you like need for your resources. But Mistveil felt like it kind of broke that by saying like, no, you're fine to run as many blues as you want. You're never gonna have to worry about resource curve. These blues are just as strong for you as reds are for everybody else. And that I think that like the chi is a byproduct of that, or I guess the chi contributes to that
Mhm.
because they provide so many resources for you and they do crazy things. Like it feels like that trade off was taken away. Um, just in Mistveil in general.
Yeah, and I think that like it's really interesting. Like it kind of goes back to what we were saying before about the draft format versus like constructed. If in a like a vacuum, if you were to ask me, is like, what do you think about Transcend as a mechanic and how it plays with these different heroes in draft? I'd be like, it's actually really cool because I have to make
Yeah.
really conscious decisions about when I draft these Transcend cards and how many I draft and how many I want to play, which ones matter the more. And I think it's like a 10 out of 10 there, right? I think that it was such a interesting experience for us. But when I look at constructed, I think it's not like it's overpowered per se. I personally, the thing that I keep coming back to is the downside of it is that you kind of get these non-blocks later in the game, right? You know, when things are kind of wrapping up. But it's still like you'd really have to catch your opponent on like 2 or 3 of them in their hands to like really
Yeah.
close out the game anyway. Because if they can still block with 2 cards and then do something with those cheese, it feels very, very strong. And you're like, holy
Yeah.
smokes. And I don't know if the ability to get them right back was what makes them so powerful and to be able to do the thing right away.
Yeah, you know what? That's that's a very good point. I remember when Mistveil was coming out, I was kind of surprised by that
Mm-hmm.
because when I first read the mechanic, I'm like, okay, they go right. You know, no, there's no way you get to use them right away. Like you do that and then you just get immediate access to it. I think we all thought that all of these heroes were they were kind of portrayed as like, oh, these are going to be second cycle heroes because you're going to have to transcend and you're going to have to get back to those transcend cards to really be able to do the crazy stuff. And then like levels of enlightenment pops up and you're like, oh no, that's actually like that's going to be crazy. Like just
Yeah.
but yeah, that's that's a good point. It feels like if you would have to really wait to get them, they would be a little more balanced.
Yeah, it's very interesting because like I like clearly neither of us are in game design, but like when I'm like trying to parse out like why is part the Mistveil so good, right? And that's the common thread between all three of them. I think New does it not the worst, but the least powerful. Like I think the best thing that New does into most decks is activate the mask, and the mask is very good, but like also you can read it a little bit. Like most of the assassin, not unlike like Dorinthia, it's like if you know what they're trying to do, you can play around it a little bit.
Yeah.
But Zen, you play a card, get back a blue, and then draw from your deck whatever combo piece you want.
Yeah.
Quite good. We've seen how powerful that is. And I think Enigma is probably just an illusionist, very strong, but like being able to just turn it into a block seems pretty good as well. Yeah. So I will say, not to like totally dog on Transcend, I will say thematically, and I think that's maybe what James White was kind of hinting at. Thematically, it is one of the biggest design wins. You are transcending. Yeah. You're doing the thing. You are transcending. You're going to a higher plane. You're getting to do the really powerful thing. You're more powerful than you were before. So, yeah, I don't know what do you think?
Which is also just decompose. You know what I mean? That's the other thing I like about it, that it did kind of, maybe we can look at it as this was a test for introducing these kinds of mechanics, because decompose treats like feel like you're treating decompose this in draft the same way that you're treating the transcend cards. Yes. You want to hit that sweet spot. So like you got to worry about hitting your sweet spot of blues. You got to worry about hitting your sweet spot of decompose cards. Having, there's another thing to balance and to think about in the draft format, and transcend was just that first. And now we're doing the same thing just with decompose instead.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, there's no way we know the answer, but like I do think it's worth talking about transcend as like a mechanic, and hopefully we see something. It's right. There's a band announcement next week, unless I'm totally way off. I think it was either the 10th or the 16th, but maybe I'm incorrect. But
sorry if you can hear the keys typing. I'm trying to see when it is.
we got Brice on it, but I wonder if they will do anything. What could change? I know there's been talk of a few, like there's one that people want gone, I believe, and I'm blanking on the name right now. Is it the one that draws a card?
For transcend cards?
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, that's same theory between like banning all the books and stuff. Yeah. Card draw and scry is just like, I don't care what game it is, it's always going to be such a powerful thing to be able to do. And like to your point, that Zen does both. Yeah. Like he just gets to do that with his transcend, and that is always going to be a very, very strong mechanic. Just being able to not only draw a card but get exactly the one you want. Like, that's always going to be a very, very strong ability. So like, if you're going to use that same the same justifications for getting rid of all the tomes, I could see saying like, okay, well, this transcend card is just a tome. It's just free card draw, like it's I can see that being the one.
Yeah. So I'll be interested. Did you get an answer on the ban?
No, the only thing that comes up is like the last. I'm sure there's like a Twitter somewhere that has the answer to it, but the only thing I'm getting is the previous BNR list.
Yeah, I think that there was something mentioned, but listen. Oh wait, I might have it. Uno momento. Next band and restricted announcement. Yes, Monday, December 16th. Also, when I think we're going to get the Arachne spoiler.
Yes.
Based on their
promotion. Man.
So I mean, if it's a big band, I mean, maybe it's a nice, good timing. It's like, give us something cool, and then also here's some bad news.
There's we've been chatting a little bit in the Green Tree Discord, where I think the general consensus, the general vibe is like chaos is just going to be roll a dice. roll a dice, and whichever one comes up, that's the version of Arachne you change into.
Oh,
Because that little teaser had like the eyeball going through Roman numerals, and it was 1 through 6.
oh
And there's
man, that would be
yeah, we're like that's kind of like we love speculating on random stuff. I some people get a little weird about it, like, oh, why even bother speculating? You don't know what it's gonna be. You're just like
it's fun.
making things more complicated because it's fun, because we love this shit, and it's like fun to just, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, it's a lot of wouldn't it be cool if, not like wouldn't it be a good design choice, it's wouldn't it be cool if.
Yeah. Well, LSS saw everybody complaining about scab skin leathers in heavy meta, and we're like, oh, you have no idea what you're getting
Just
yourself
you wait.
into. Just wait. Holy smokes. I mean, yeah, chaos is going to be sick. Now, we do have some listener questions from the Buds Discord. Great place to hang out, where everybody goes. All the Buds hang out there. It's free. It's in the show notes.
All the cool kids are there.
All the cool kids. Darth Prentice, who we mentioned earlier, Greg, asks, "Who the heck is Brice? What happened to Bruce?"
What happened to Bruce? So would you like the full story on that one?
Sure.
So fun fact, if you are an iPhone user, and I'm pretty sure Android also does this, if you don't have Brice in your contact, your autocorrect is always going to go to Bruce. Always. Because I know iOS does it where it'll take names in your contact list and kind of integrate them like into your autocorrect. It just turned into a thing. Funny enough, Pete, the same guy that I was talking about that, helped introduce me to Flesh and Blood. It just got so like every time he would type Brice in Discord, it would just come through as Bruce. And it just kind of got, it's one of those things that just snowballed into a joke where it's like the real problem is that I started answering to Bruce at Armory. Someone will be like, "Oh, Bruce, looking for Bruce at the table." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm over here." We actually had we've had actually a good bit of like new players coming in recently. A couple of the guys are like recruiting their work friends to come in and play. I actually had somebody sit across the table from me, look at their gem account, and go, "Wait, is your name Brice or Bruce?" Because Gem says this, but I literally heard you answering to Bruce like 5 minutes ago. It's what it is now. This is my life now.
I love it. Unless you hate it, and then
no, honestly, yeah. This has come up too. It was, it's like, are you really okay with just us being like, no, your name is Bruce now? I'm like, dude, I don't care. There's no like vitriol around it. It's just funny. So I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'm the one who started answering to it. Whatever.
Funny enough, my dad is the same name as me. Tommy Fresh Sr. And, we live in, where he grew up. And growing up, people would come up who went to high school with him and be like, "Is Tim around?" I'm like, "Who?" and even one of my aunts, who's his sister, thought his name was Tim until she was in college because people would just call him Tim, which is...
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Probably not an autocorrect thing.
No. He was smaller. He was a tinier guy, so I think they call him Tiny Tim.
Oh, that's funny.
So it is what it is. Smithel, don't know if you know him, asked Brice,
what does he want to know?
If he could design a piece of kitchen equipment that could heat up bread to make it warm and crispy, what would he call it?
Okay.
And why would he never want to own one?
This is another thing that has probably a little bit too much of a backstory to it, but and this is my mistake, because this was another group of friends. This was my like before I even started playing Flesh and Blood, my like board game nights kind of group of friends. I hate to admit it, but I actually like successfully let my friends gaslight me into believing that I never owned a toaster. Because my one buddy really likes that. I got those he just pranks on me nonstop. I got those like Philips Hue lights all around my house. He'll go and like take the remotes and put them in different rooms. So like I hit the button in the living room and like my office light turns on or something, and he'll just scramble them. he just started making a joke of like, my toaster just broke and I threw it away and I just never got a new one. So he was like, "What are you talking about? You never had a toaster?" I would like, I've literally never seen one in your kitchen. And I don't know why he did that. He loves trolling me for like no reason whatsoever. And this went on for like probably 6 months. I'm more concerned why I didn't buy a new toaster for 6 months, but he just kept going. He's like, "What do you mean? You've never had one? You've never had one here." And I made the mistake of telling, Armory friends about this story, and they just never. Now I put it out on the whole internet, so now nobody will ever let me live this down. But it's just a stupid meme, honestly. To answer the question though, like what would I call it? I don't know, like I'd have to like have my name in it. Probably like the Hutch. No, that's already a thing. Um,
Uh,
let's just call it the Bruce.
the Bruce.
You want your bread to be a
Bruce.
little toasty? Put it through the Bruce. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean that's a great name, but to be fair, they really nailed it when they call it the toaster. It is toasting
That's
it.
that's the problem. It's like, what else could you possibly? It's one of those little inventions that's like, yeah, what it does, that's the name. Ship it. It's fine.
Classic toaster, freezer, some other things.
Yeah.
Next question goes from Capolo, who asks, "Which Flesh and Blood hero would be the best chef, and how would they cook meeps for Thanksgiving?"
Probably one of the UPF ones. Like I could see one of the merchants, like Cavadine.
Oh
Is that how you
yeah,
pronounce it? Cavadine?
Cavdane.
Yeah. Because he's definitely in some cards doing some pretty gruesome kind of like butcher stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. And how would they cook meeps? I would probably well, for Thanksgiving, probably just cook them like a traditional turkey.
Sure.
So you know what I mean. Find something, make a meep duckin out of it. Duckin meep. I don't know, something. You definitely want to do one of those like layered like turducken kind of things with the meep. Not gravy though. Probably like a what's the other kind of gravy, the southern, the like gravy,
Like
or
the sausage gravy, like the
sausage gravy.
Oh,
Yeah, the
yeah.
white sausage gravy. Because I don't think a regular like beef stock would go good with meats. They seem, if I had to guess, they're probably a little tough.
Probably.
Yeah,
But
they're small. They run around a lot. There's a lot.
yeah, it's like a gamey, probably like a rabbit.
Yeah, gamey. That's what I was saying. Yeah, more like rabbit meat because they're small and very nimble. So more muscle tissue than fat.
Now I want somebody to make a alt art of a hero that's John Madden with a meep duckin, which oh god, that would just make me so happy. William has a follow-up question here. William from the Table Pit, who asked, "Is eating?" We kind of just talked about it. Is eating meat more akin to eating dog or raccoon? I hope you don't know or have a frame of reference here.
Yeah, I've had some very weird jerkies before.
Mm-hmm.
There's a place we like to go to in Cape May that has all these like crazy specialty jerkies. I think one was like ostrich.
Oh yeah.
Never had. I can't say I've ever had dog or raccoon, but I think the same kind of logic for meeps would apply. Probably very gamey.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah,
but if
real chewy. In a pinch around a fireplace, you know what I mean? If you're out in the woods, sometimes you got to eat a meat.
Meat jerky.
It happens.
Ooh, sounds good. But well, that's gonna do it for the show, folks. I had a great time with you, Brice. And
can I just say those were some very good questions, though.
Those were some excellent. The buds always show up. I'll tell you that. I love them. Now, can you please plug everything that you have going on? And
we not to get all soapboxy, but we did kind of mention earlier that we were kind of divesting from Twitter. Not a big fan of that platform in lieu of everything that's happened recently. So we are on Blue Sky now. Mine is Brice Hutch, Brice HUTCH .blue sky. What is it? .bluesky.social.
Yeah, they need to change that. I will say.
Yeah, that is weird. And that is one of the things that's like kind of like, why do you need a whole ass URL for like your handles? And then O3 drop is O-3 drop. Probably another mistake on my part. I don't know why I needed to hyphenate or underscore anything in social handles, but it's there. So O-3 drop, same thing on Blue Sky. The Linktree is we can just put that in the notes. There's underscores and stuff in it. So, but yeah, we do have a Linktree that has everything set up. Come on out over to YouTube if you're not already there. Like I said, we just hit 500, which is crazy. We got our shirts made from Jeff for free because we hit episode threshold. So we kept it. Did you were you talking to Jeff earlier? Because Jeff pinged me about like sending you.
Oh yeah, because I feel yeah. Jeff didn't have a question. He responded to the listener question because I didn't have a picture of you yet. I had asked you for one. You hadn't gotten back to me.
Oh yeah.
So I just posted. So I made a joke saying there's no pictures of Brice anywhere on the internet. So
I straight up had that thing where I like hit enter and then I went back. I was like, what do you mean? I sent it to him like yesterday, and it had that little like failed to send little blip on there, and I was like, you son of a. That's fine. Happens to the best of us. But yeah, mostly on Blue Sky, on YouTube. We've had a couple asks about trying to get Spotify up to date. We kind of dropped the ball on keeping the Spotify playlist up to date. I'm gonna try to go back and get some of the backlogs of episodes because we know some people like to listen on Spotify. But yeah, primarily YouTube and Blue Sky, and getting Spotify caught up in the pretty soon here.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend getting the old audio up there. I'm a audio podcast listener, but no shade to any YouTube listeners out there.
Did you get your Spotify Wrapped?
I sure did. I got a Spotify Wrapped for my regular music listening. I also got a Spotify Wrapped for the podcast, which was kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I think I don't I'm trying to remember whose actual like Spotify account we used for that because I didn't catch anything from the. Maybe Craig has it. I don't know.
All I know is top performing episode this past year, Rosetta set review with Bill LePage.
Nice.
The set reviews, although they are 5 hours, are our best performing episodes on audio.
Wow.
So
I mean that's where the hype is. You know what I mean? That's what everybody wants to. That's what everybody wants to dig their claws into for the new sets and stuff.
You get to just tuck in, get comfy, just listen to Tommy Fresh be wrong about a lot of cards.
play some web fishing and listen to podcasts.
Yeah, that game looks so sick. I want to play it. You can all find me on Blue Sky. I still have the Twitter, just keeping the handle just in case. You never know. But Blue Sky is where it's popping. I mentioned at the top of the show before we had Brice on that we're doing a giveaway for Scarf for a Scarf. So
nice.
When we hit 1K subs on YouTube, if you quote Blue Sky posted, whatever we're calling it, quote bleeding, I don't know what we're calling it. If you quote the post of the giveaway with the word scarf and we hit 1K on YouTube, boom, you're in the running for a scarf for a scarf. I even took a picture with about 12 of my brand new wife's scarves, which was very fun. And
I was gonna ask, are those all your scarves? Are you like a real big scarf guy? Like
I like to scarf down food, but beyond that, I am no scarves typically. But you can find me Blue Sky, YouTube. Give us a like, comment, subscribe. Check out the Buzz Discord, and then check out Fresh Juice Indie Game Podcast I do with my cousin, and we have a good time over there. And finally, Brice or Bruce, we always like to talk about food at the end of every episode. Hit me with some food. You're in the land of some really delicious food in Western PA, if I do say so. I mean, not healthy food, but delicious.
Not a lot of I mean, there's a lot of pierogies and oh gosh, I heard myself say it that way too. The pierogies. We were actually speaking of Spotify Wrapped, we were kind of joking around about like, man, what if other apps did Wrapped for the year and like sheets that are wrapped, and it's like you've eaten 600 Sheets hot dogs this year. That would be real bad. No, there's not too far from where I work, if you're ever in Pittsburgh, there's a whole area that we just kind of refer to as the Strip District. It is pseudo historical district. It was where a lot of the like freight came through, a lot of the A lot of the storefronts are actually old freight loading zones for like trains and trucks and stuff. It's where Permanis was born. I'm sure Craig or Chris or Matt probably one time mentioned Permanis. It's not that good. There's a place called Pamela's. It is some of the best breakfast food in the city. If you like breakfast food as much as I do, they do this like chorizo hash omelet. That's kind of their signature thing, right? They have all this really fantastic breakfast food. The chorizo hash omelet is what people go down there and wait 2 hours in line for on a Saturday morning. Always a line out the door there. But I mean, other than that, that's the one that I would personally recommend. Anything down in that area has a lot of fantastic stuff if you ever happen to find yourself in the Pittsburgh area.
You even say go down there. I heard it.
Go down.
Yeah. Go down there and have it.
It's people. I'm glad I didn't have to say iron rot or anything like that. That is some of those things I have not been able to like. I mean, I still, obviously still live in the area. I've actively tried to lose some of that just like stupid Southwest PA twang that you have and saying things like that, like down to the crick and stuff like that. Can't do it. I'll be saying that.
Listen, I mean, you can try all you want. It sneaks out of me. People know, like, I'm like New Jersey river trash. I say wooder.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it is just, it's bad. But
go down to Wawa, refill your water.
Yeah, good Danny Shore too, and you get down to Cape May for the weekend. But anyway, I think with all those accents, we don't have time for Charmer, but we'll get to him eventually. Thank you all.
I forgot about that.
I never forget about Charmer, but this time I'm purposely forgetting about Charmer. Until next time, though. But who knows? Everybody, stay fresh.